Honestly, this might be one of the most beautiful, most Bavarian views I've ever had. Let me show you how to get here. All right, everybody, let's just relax. Let's take a breath. Repeat after me. Neuschwanstein's completely overrated and overrun with tourists, and I'm so sorry, but it had to be said. But don't worry, Bavaria has so much more to offer, and I've been doing plenty of research. And in fact, I found two awesome looking castle ruins only 3 miles north of Neuschwanstein itself. So come with me today. I don't know if they're going to be any good, but let's find out together and explore these ruins and answer the question, are they better than Neuschwanstein? Let's go.
Not too much to say though, as the road to Weisenhopfenau is well worn, being that it's only one stop away from the massive tourist destination of Füssen. All we need to do is catch a train, take a walk. How easy is that? Purchase your buy-in ticket at the Munich Hauptbahnhof, or on the app if you have it, that's what I do, and look for the BRB train to Füssen. It's usually somewhere around track 30, but you know, obviously you have to check that yourself. Unfortunately, the trains in this direction only run every 2 hours, which is kind of annoying. So check the schedule beforehand and plan ahead. You don't want to arrive at the wrong time and just have way too much downtime. I'm going to be taking the 7:52 train, which is far too early, but I've got a lot of filming to do, which you don't have to worry about. So you can probably manage the 9:52 without too much issue. Just make sure to leave enough time to hike, see both castles, picnic, and most importantly, have a beer at the Gasthaus afterwards.
So once you get off the train, you gotta be pretty quick. Have your bags packed because it only stops here for maybe 5-10 seconds, really. Okay, maybe it was like 30, but it felt really fast, so be quick. Because we're only one stop away from Füssen, so not that many people are really gonna get off here. You know, everyone's going to Neuschwanstein, right? But I'm actually pretty excited. I don't know the exact way to the castles. Google Maps has a couple ideas, but I don't really think they're correct. I'm gonna end up linking what I find out for you guys in the description below, so check that out if you're interested. And anyway, let's get started. Let's see how these castles hold up. All right, so we finally get to walk away from the road and out of the town up into the mountains. Now it's kind of cool because on a lot of my travels in Bavaria, I've noticed that these little towns can feel a little medieval, which is really awesome, but also a little for tourists. This one is almost entirely residential, really, really pretty though. But at the very head, they have an awesome hand-painted map of the area. So perhaps it's only a secret to international tourists. It definitely feels like the locals are in the know about this one. Should be lots of fun. I'm excited to go. That, and the other thing I wanted to mention, is that you can actually see the castle from the train and from in the village, which you can't always do in these things. You know, they kind of get hidden up in the mountains. The only other one I can think of is like Eisenberg, but this one is awesome. So I've been hyped ever since we got off the train, and now we're ready to go. Let's see what we can find. So I've got to say that was a pretty awesome walk. I mean, this is a little more rural than some of the trails that I've gone on, but it's not that long, so it's super manageable. Tons of families are doing it. And what's really cool is that this castle seems to be at an apex on the hill, right? And that hill has trails going to multiple towns. So I'm super excited to kind of get that bird's eye view in a second. It's gonna be really, really cool. And you can see all the people kind of getting up here from different ways, and I just love how interconnected it is. You know, it's not just one trail from one town, it's tons of them. How cool is that? Anyway, we're just going through the entry gate now. Let's go check this out.
Now that we've arrived at the first castle, let's get into the history, shall we? Castle Eisenberg was built in 1313 by the nobles of Hohenegg, after being swiftly driven from their original castle by the Tyroleans. The nobles established their new lordship in the similarly named town of Eisenberg and began building the fortifications up here. Being salty by their defeat at the hands of the Tyroleans, the nobles built Castle Eisenberg as a sort of spite castle, putting a lot of their money into the castle's aesthetics and not necessarily its function, with a big example being this high wall that they built to give an illusion of a tower. Doesn't really help you, but I guess it looks pretty cool. Later in 1525, the castle finally got to see some good action when it was immediately overrun and badly damaged by peasants in the German Peasants' War. But considering the building techniques of spite and vanity, was anyone really surprised by this? No, I wasn't. Finally, the castle met its complete ruination in 1646 during the 30 Years' War, when the Austrians burnt down all castles in the surrounding area. No matter though, this castle makes an excellent lunch spot, and regardless of their dubious intentions for building so high up on this hill, and badly, at least it provides truly astounding views. My favourite being from the guard tower located at the front of the structure. Brilliant.
Alright, so that walk was pretty minuscule, maybe 6 minutes at that. I haven't been in yet, but I have flown my drone around and I'm incredibly excited because this one looks even better than the last one. Let's go check it out.
So about this other castle then, why on earth did they build another defensive fortification a paltry 7-minute walk away on the next most hill? Well, in 1418, the Lord of Eisenberg, residing in Eisenberg Castle, tasked his son with bolstering their defences, but also, and perhaps most importantly, to engage in a little bit of aristocratic peacocking. You see, the keen-eyed among you will have noticed that Hohenfreyberg looks very similar architecturally to Eisenberg, and the design of Eisenberg was also out of date by the time of manufacture. This doesn't really make any sense though, as who goes out of their way to spend this much money on something obsolete? Well, this has led some scholars to theorize that the castle's structure emotionally represents an unease among the German nobility about their waning influence as the more modern bourgeois came to power. As such, this 15th century castle was built in the style of castles from 200 years prior, attempting to imply some sort of unbroken lineage and untoppable aristocratic power and grandeur. They weren't far off though, were they? As we already know what happened to Eisenberg, the peasants rose up and would try to ransack this place as well. Interestingly enough though, this castle was actually able to fend them off and live to see another day, until eventually meeting that same Austrian fire of the 30 Years' War that ruined so many of its kin. Overall, I find myself more impressed with this structure than the other. It's far more fun to explore and clamber all over, with so many corridors, nooks and crannies intact, but it's just not as good of a lunch spot, so keep that in mind.
All right, so there you have it. That's going to be 2 castles in about as many hours. That obviously you can spend as long as you want if you bring yourself a packed lunch and plenty of water. Now, I'm sure you're probably going to be able to guess my conclusion about these 2 castles in this excellent hike versus Neuschwanstein. But I've been thinking about it even more, and against a ton of different castle trips that I've done, this one's ending up shockingly high up on that list. And so I just can't recommend it enough. But to get my full details, I'll see you in the conclusion.
Hey everybody, we're back in Munich after our trip to Eisenberg. So we kind of started this video out with a question. Are the Eisenberg Castle ruins better than Neuschwanstein? And that's sort of a big question. You can't really answer it with a simple yes or no. That'd be ridiculous. There's a lot of subtlety and nuance to it. So I thought that we could sort of contextualize this question through the lens of our personal experiences and our recommendations to sort of drill down closer to which one, is better, can you compare them and all that. So what do you think, Ben?
Right, so obviously I can't tell you what's better for you or what you like in a castle, but I can say what I prefer. And anybody who's watched our channel before will kind of be able to guess that I'm going to be into the historical ruins. How many ruin videos have we made at this point? It's just insane. Anyway, these 2 castles fall into pretty broad categories. One of the aesthetic castle, that being Neuschwanstein. Everybody knows that the Cinderella castle was based off of Neuschwanstein, but the similarities go deeper than that. They're both built to evoke these emotions of a bygone era, obviously in a bit of a fantasy way, to accentuate the curves here and diminish the results there, because they're not worried about cannons, they're not worried about swordsmen or any of those things. They're not worried about where to put all the townspeople when a raid happens. They're just worried about having a cool brick structure with, I guess, towers and stuff. And it's awesome for that. And I think that's why Neuschwanstein is so famous, because it is so big and beautiful and located so well. And that's awesome if that's what you're into. But for me, I do prefer to go to these historical castles to kind of look out from their guard towers at the planes that they would have controlled, the people that they would have influenced and protected and taken their taxes from. I just think that's really interesting to kind of watch that. And as you look out, especially in Bavaria, at all the small towns dotted around, realizing that they've been there for so long and they kind of exist in symbiosis with this ruined castle. There would be no Eisenberg without Eisenberg Castle, and the same for many of the others. And I just think that's really cool. And that's why I just love it up there. Great picnics.
Yeah, me too.
But what about you? I mean, it's not without drawbacks, right? There are some problems with these places that people might prefer Neuschwanstein for. So what are the differences?
Yeah, I think a lot of the drawbacks can definitely be categorized in terms of logistics, and so there are 2 sort of aspects to that. The first being tourist infrastructure, and I think this is really epitomized in the difference between the train station closest to Eisenberg and the Füssen train station for Neuschwanstein. When you get to the Füssen train station with the intention of going to Neuschwanstein, you immediately see tons of infrastructure. There's a gift shop, there's a bakery, bathrooms, everything's in English. You can easily find the buses to take you to the castle. When you get to the Eisenberg Castle ruins, there's not even a train station for Eisenberg. You're 1 town over. There's not really a train station. It's more like a slab of concrete next to the train tracks. I mean, that is still a train station. Barely. And then you're expected, if you're going to go to the castle, to find your way yourself. There are no signs. You're walking through cow pastures, through random dirt roads. So it can be a little bit difficult if you're maybe the type of person who's had a lot of experience traveling in cities, but not a lot of experience traveling independently outside of cities. And if that kind of thing really, really stresses you out or makes you nervous, this is completely acceptable. Maybe hold off on doing this. Or, find a friend who's more familiar with the area. The other aspect that might turn people off from choosing Eisenberg over Neuschwanstein is sort of the physicality aspect of this. And I feel really confident in talking about Eisenberg Castle ruins because this is actually my 3rd time having been there. My first time when I was in elementary school with my grandparents. They had traveled around Bavaria very consistently in their younger days, and I went with my family and them to Bavaria, and they showed us these Eisenberg Castle ruins. Unfortunately, though, they were in their 70s and they didn't quite feel comfortable hiking down from Eisenberg, the town, up into the castle ruins. So they sort of had to sit that one out and have some coffee and cake, wait for us to come back down after exploring. And it's unfortunate because as many times as they had been to the Eisenberg Castle ruins and as I've been now, we've never actually been able to go together, just because of the physicality of it. So if you have members of your family that maybe have mobility issues or are very elderly or just, would enjoy doing something like this, maybe hold off on going to the Eisenberg Castle ruins. Now, on the other hand, Neuschwanstein has a equally long and arduous hike up to the top, but there are horse-drawn carriages on their paved roads that are offered. So I actually saw many families while we were hiking up to Neuschwanstein for our video who were actually taking the carriages up because they had elderly members of their family, but who still got to experience, the castle together. So that was quite heartwarming. So if you're in that, that boat, maybe go to Neuschwanstein instead.
Right, and like I said, they're very different castles for different kinds of people, and they both have their pros and cons. Definitely accessibility is something that's really important and can't always be guaranteed to ruins, and it's awesome that Neuschwanstein's there to kind of help out with that. And if you're lucky, and if you're more like us, and you have more time to go around, you could easily do both, and that's kind of really fun. Get to see both types of castles so close together, seeing each other from the respective high points. It's really awesome, because they're on that same path, so you could easily do Munich to Eisenberg and then over to Füssen. It would be brilliant, and I highly recommend it. But maybe that's for another video. So I hope you like this. I hope this really helped you out. I hope you're inspired to go do it. Like and subscribe. It really helps out since we're a small channel. Follow us on Instagram if you want to see where we're going next, because we're always posting photos of where we are and what we're filming. And other than that, we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.